Coronavirus. Facts, not fear, starts now.
Good evening, I'm Shannon Heggie. We begin tonight with some of the coronavirus headlines from across the world. Bus operations have restored in Wuhan, China, as the pandemic seems to be under control in the city. To take the bus, passengers must register with their phones, and temperature screenings are conducted at bus stations. As life slowly goes back to normal in Wuhan, countries around the world are combating the coronavirus and struggling with a lack of medical resources. Streets and tourist attractions across Rome remain empty as coronavirus deaths in Italy continue to skyrocket. A government-ordered lockdown remains in effect for all of Italy as part of the nation's effort to curb the spread of COVID-19. All non-essential travel is banned, and many shops and squares across the nation are currently closed. Italy has more than 74,000 cases of the coronavirus right now and has seen at least 7,000 deaths. Meantime, volunteers in Italy are stepping in to help the most vulnerable. They're going door to door, delivering food and medicine. The high number of coronavirus infections in Italy has overwhelmed the country's health system. More than 500,000 confirmed cases of coronavirus have been reported worldwide. And while a majority of people who are exposed experience mild to moderate symptoms, some do require hospitalization. The growing number of patients have overwhelmed healthcare workers everywhere. And here in the U.S., the House of Representatives is taking up the historic $2 trillion coronavirus aid package. As Washington, D.C. correspondent Joe Khalil reports, while there are some disagreements, both parties see the urgent need to pass this bill.
So we had to take important action.
Speaker Nancy Pelosi made a rare guarantee Thursday.
One way or another, we will be passing the bill tomorrow.
Pelosi says after Democrats took 3 days to negotiate changes, the urgent package now meets the immediate needs of American workers, families, and hospitals.
We're able to flip this over from corporate trickle-down Republican version to bubble-up worker first, families first legislation.
That is an outright lie. The fundamental portions of this bill has not changed since Sunday.
While Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy strongly refutes Speaker Pelosi on how the relief package came to be, both agree on the need to pass it.
And it should not be delayed getting to the president's desk.
McCarthy says this package has overwhelming Republican support, but the process by which this vote's going to be taken, he says, is going to look different for the safety of House members.
We have members on both sides of the aisle who have the virus. We have members who are quarantined.
McCarthy says members who make it to the Capitol will maintain social distance, and the podium is going to be cleaned between speakers. But he says that won't stop the House from sending the bill on to the president.
It does not do enough, but we needed to do what we could.
Senator Kamala Harris supports the bill, but says the aid package falls short on paid sick leave and help for cities and states.
So in this moment of a public health crisis, let's remember that we still have a lot of work to do.
Work, she says, lawmakers must continue throughout the crisis. In Washington, I'm Joe Khalil.
Thank you, Joe. And the $2 trillion coronavirus relief package includes $5 billion to New York State's government. On Thursday, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo expressed disappointment over the amount and says the virus has already cost his state between $10 and $15 billion in lost tax revenue. New York Congressman Anthony Brindisi says more help is coming.
There's already talk about a fourth stimulus package, looking at how we can help local governments and states across the country. And I think that if New York continues to be the epicenter, they're going to see more funding through that as well.
In the Elmhurst neighborhood of Queens, lines of people, many wearing masks and standing several feet apart, are waiting outside the Elmhurst hospital. At least 13 patients have died from COVID-19 at that hospital in just the last 24 hours. Today, Chicago's mayor made the decision to close the city's lakefront. Mayor Lori Lightfoot says she had seen big crowds congregating in public spaces even after the governor issued a statewide stay-at-home order. Chicago's lakefront, trails, and the Riverwalk will be closed indefinitely. Officers will patrol the areas and ticket or arrest those who violate the order. Many cities and towns have issued those stay-at-home orders in an attempt to slow down the spread of the virus. We check in now with CBS 17 News anchor Angela Taylor in Raleigh. And Angela, what's the latest there in North Carolina?
So, Shannon, the latest here, North Carolina now has 600 cases, more than 600 cases of COVID-19, and the state announcing another death, making it a total of 3 here. That man was 37 years old with an underlying health condition. Right now, about 50 people are in the hospital, and we know the state has tested about 15,000 more people. We're just waiting for those results to come back. That could take a few days. Tonight, though, we were able to talk with a Wake Forest University student who actually traveled overseas. When she came back to the United States, she was diagnosed with COVID-19. CBS 17's Crystal Price is sharing her message.
Chloe Baker is your typical 19-year-old college student at Wake Forest University. During spring break, she went to London with her university choir.
We're all together. We're like going out to pubs at night together.
Baker spoke with me through a video call today, telling me she and other students decided to quarantine themselves just as a precaution. Then, just a few days later,
last Monday, I started coughing a little bit.
The last thing she thought it could be was the coronavirus.
There's no way. This has to just be allergies, right? This has to be allergies.
But after her symptoms began to worsen, she went to the doctor and tested positive for COVID-19. And so did at least 2 other students who went on the trip. An illness, she says, is a lot like the flu, but a little different.
So I think the most unique thing about COVID was for me, just shortness of breath that I hadn't experienced before.
She's been in isolation for 2 weeks now, and now she finally thinks she's on the mend. But tonight, she's asking all young people to listen to the stay-at-home orders. As she says, the coronavirus is something you don't want to spread to anyone, as it could kill one of your loved ones who is at risk.
Any time we spend ignoring the rules is going to prolong the time we spend having to shelter in place and having to do damage control. If we listen now, that will really, shorten the timeline of the country having to be shut down over this.
In Durham, Crystal Price, CBS 17 News.
And we are thankful that Chloe is on the mend, but she's urging people to stay home, and for good reason. Our hospitals here are running out of supplies, but today, Wake Tech College helped out some of those local hospitals. They donated tens of thousands of gloves, masks, and bottles of sanitizer. Major hospitals picked up those supplies this morning.
We had these supplies and we've gotten so much support from the county and community in the past. We wanted to be able to do our part and distribute it to different areas that are in need.
Now, donations were collected from different departments at Wake Tech College, including imaging, nursing, EMS, and dental hygiene. They distributed more than 75,000 gloves and 3,000 masks and other equipment to Duke, Wake Med, and UNC Health. Of course, those are our major hospitals here. So the coronavirus has put all of our lives on hold. A lot of people aren't working. We know the kids are out of school. But one family here in North Carolina, one couple rather, was still able to tie the knot. Jess and Trent Hancock rescheduled their entire wedding plans in a week to comply with CDC regulations. They decided to make a Facebook group for their guests, giving all their attendees a chance to view their love story.
We were a little worried about how to make that decision of who should be included or who shouldn't.
It was like, a YouTube video or like the end of Ferris Bueller. Just coming up, just like, all right, y'all saw it. What are y'all waiting for?
Now, the few people who were in attendance were told to keep their distance from each other during the ceremony and reception. Even the photographer wore their gloves. Now, although they say their wedding was a little unconventional, it, of course, is a memory they will never forget. Shannon?
Good for them. Congratulations to them. Thank you, Angela. To the northeast now, there are more than 1,000 COVID-19 cases in Connecticut. Over in Massachusetts, the total has surpassed 2,400. And in Rhode Island, there are 165 confirmed cases. WPRI 12 Politics editor Ted Nesi was at Governor Gina Raimondo's press briefing today and joins us now from Providence with more.
While the governor says many people are already asking her when she'll be able to lift some of the current restrictions, right now her focus is on adding more to try and stop the spread of COVID-19.
I understand this is an extreme measure.
Governor Gina Raimondo ordering anyone arriving in Rhode Island from the New York metro area to self-quarantine for 14 days.
In light of the fact that New York City is a hotspot, their infection rate is skyrocketing, and they are so close to Rhode Island, In my judgment, this is the most prudent course of action.
Uniformed personnel will be collecting contact information to enforce the order, with National Guard members at bus depots and train stations and the state police pulling over cars with New York plates.
We fully realize there's a tremendous amount of stress and anxiety associated with this crisis. And I assure everyone, no matter which state you reside in, all troopers will be professional, polite, and will treat everyone with dignity and respect.
These latest steps as the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in Rhode Island jumps by 33 overnight. More alarmingly, the number of those hospitalized rising from 15 to 23. 9 are in the ICU.
Some hospitals have used the intensive care unit as a place to just monitor more closely. 6 of the 9 are actually intubated in the ICUs.
The governor's new goal is to double testing capacity by next week to 1,000 people a day, but she says getting there is a huge challenge.
I cannot reopen the economy until we have a testing infrastructure in place, multiple testing sites and swab collection sites around the state, and a capacity to run effectively, at scale, reliably, at least 1,000 tests a day.
And back to those travel restrictions, the governor saying she expects to announce further restrictions on travelers who come to Rhode Island from the New York metro area in the coming days. The governor will hold another briefing tomorrow, Friday, at 1 p.m. At the State House, Ted Nesi, Eyewitness News.
Thank you, Ted. And tonight, U.S. Attorney General William Barr is discussing the Justice Department's efforts to stop price gouging on critically needed medical equipment and drugs. The Attorney General says anyone trying to profit off the current pandemic will face criminal prosecution. This week, President Trump signed an executive order to crack down on retailers hiking up prices. Barr says the order is not aimed at consumers who are stocking up on essential supplies for their own use, but rather those who are hoarding critical supplies and trying to sell them at higher prices.
We're talking about middlemen who come into the market, try to buy this equipment and important material up for the purpose of jacking up the price.
AG Barr ordered every U.S. Attorney's office to appoint a lead prosecutor to tackle coronavirus-related price gouging. The deadline for obtaining a real ID has officially been pushed back due to the coronavirus pandemic. The Department of Homeland Security announced today that the October 1st, 2020 deadline has been pushed back an entire year to October 1st, 2021. After that date, real IDs or valid passports will be required at airports to fly domestically and to enter certain government buildings. And now let's go to John Holt at Fox 4 in Kansas City. That metro area straddles 2 states, and both of them saw their biggest one-day increase in cases today.
Hey, Shannon, you know, that's right. 42 new cases in Kansas, bringing the state to 169. Another big jump in Missouri, 146 new cases, the total in the Show Me state at 502. That's the biggest jump so far. Today, President Trump adding Missouri to the list of major disaster declaration states. That will free up money from FEMA. Meantime, back in Missouri and Kansas, health experts are stressing COVID-19 tests are not widely available. Here's Missouri's Governor Mike Parson today.
As much as I would help everyone that could be able to be tested today that wants to be tested, the reality of it is we don't have the test. They don't have it nationally. So we have to prioritize who we're going to test and who we're not.
Right now, test priority goes to critically ill patients and, of course, healthcare workers on the front lines. But nursing home residents cannot be tested until they show symptoms, even in homes where other residents have tested positive. Along with the tests, there's also concern about protective gear for hospital staff. Our Shannon O'Brien shows us how some local CEOs have stepped up to help meet that demand.
We're designers and makers, and so naturally we solve really complex problems, and so we immediately switched to, okay, how can we help?
Tucker Trotter's company, Dimensional Innovations, is a design-build tech firm that is usually busy making lighting fixtures and interactive experiences for museums and halls of fame, but has jumped into the medical supply business.
What's really clever about it is that there's only a single material that you need to source.
Brandon Wood works in DI's innovation lab and helped create this face shield, which are in short supply. Wood began communicating with folks at KU Hospital Sunday night, and just 1 day and 6 prototypes later, this shield is now being made at a rate of 900 per day.
It's exciting to be working on something that's truly helpful.
While we have this downtime, we have the opportunity to support the people that are on the front lines fighting this battle for us, and they deserve our support.
How can we help Kansas City, and how can we locally help flatten this curve for the disease that's spreading throughout the United States?
Along with Trotter, Timur Nana is also one of the group of Kansas City CEOs who make up what is now known as the C19 KC Task Force.
We're in the business of manufacturing clothing. We're not in the business of manufacturing masks.
But Nana is using his contacts and skills in logistics to set up supply chains throughout different parts of the world to compile a bank of medical supplies.
For next week, we're hoping to get in about 100,000 masks into Kansas City, and then once they're here, basically organizations will be able to distribute them to the hospitals and the firefighters and the police departments that are all in desperate need of these masks. And unfortunately, in the next week, I think it's going to be much worse here.
The private sector at work. Shannon O'Brien reporting, and that's the latest tonight from Kansas City. Shannon, back to you.
Thank you, John. And tonight, people in Colorado, like many other parts of the country, are being told to stay home. KDVR anchor Aristea Brady joins us now live from Denver with the latest there.
First day of Colorado's stay-at-home order right now, but there are a few exceptions we should tell you about. So critical workers can still go to and from work. You can go to the grocery store, you can pick up your medications if you need to, and you're still allowed to go outside in Colorado's great outdoors to try to get a little bit of exercise. But you do have to keep within that legally mandated social distancing length of 6 feet, as we've heard so many times right now. Fox 31 reporter Kristen Hobrick explains.
We had been, kind of locked up at home for a while.
The Schwetman family, like so many others, have been avoiding crowds. They set up camp at Cherry Creek State Park to enjoy nature and get away.
We've been riding our bikes a lot.
But with the statewide stay-at-home order now in effect, Colorado Parks and Wildlife has tightened their rules to stop the spread of COVID-19. They've closed all campgrounds. CPW says trailheads and boat ramps will remain open. They understand folks need to exercise, but want people to be mindful of social distancing.
If you go to a trailhead or you're in a parking lot and it's full, then you just have to adjust. So either go to a different trailhead, go to a different park, or you'd have to come back at a different time.
Do you think it would get to the point where you'd have to close some trails because there's just too many people?
So everything right now is subject to change.
Colorado State Patrol is also putting out a warning tonight to stop this, an influx of cars parked illegally while people went backcountry skiing and hiking. They'll have additional troopers out.
You're subject to being ticketed or even towed if you are parked illegally.
For the Schwetman family, as they start to pack up camp, they plan to find alternative ways to exercise while still self-isolating.
We're keeping ourselves distant from everybody right now.
And today we have learned that one of the players for the Colorado Avalanche, that's our hockey team here, has tested positive for COVID-19. Apparently, he experienced symptoms. He's self-isolated, and now he is at home recovering. We don't know yet who that is. Reporting live in Denver, I'm Aristea Brady. Back to you, Shannon.
Thanks, Aristea. Now, amid the coronavirus pandemic, some consumers have raised concerns over food safety. The FDA says there's no evidence the virus can be transmitted through food or through food packaging. However, the agency says it is possible that the virus can survive on surfaces, so people should also practice proper food handling, including regular hand washing. Southwest, Delta, and other major airlines are converting airport runways here and abroad into storage facilities. As millions of Americans across the country face travel restrictions, airlines are being forced to reduce service and cancel flights. And the planes that are still flying are mostly empty. And now we send it out to the West Coast. Samantha Cortese and Andy Reesmeyer joining us now with the latest from Los Angeles. Hey, guys.
Hello. So 9 more people have died today in LA County. The total deaths here is 21. A big number was said today, 421 new cases of the coronavirus COVID-19 in LA County, bringing the new total to 1,216 in LA County alone. Now, the big new number is attributed to an increase in testing. 4,000 new tests were completed just yesterday. Dr. Barbara Ferrer of the LA County Department of Health has a dire warning for people who do not want to stay home.
If there are 1,000 people that are positive and each one of those people infects 2 other people, If we don't curtail that spread, within a few weeks, there could be over 1 million people that would be infected in LA County. And if
She says up to 200,000 people might need hospitalization by then. The LA Convention Center might be ready as early as next week to house and shelter people. A floating hospital with around 1,000 beds arrives in the next few days. It is still difficult to get a test all over the county. Cars were lined up for miles to get drive-through testing. More than 3,700 people are now infected in California. At least 80 have died. In Washington, the total is 2,591 with 62 deaths.
And now the implications for businesses. Here in Southern California, a gunfight. Today, LA County Sheriff Villanueva released a statement saying gun stores are not considered essential business and must close to the public. Tuesday, he shut gun stores down and then reversed his stance and opened them again. And now 2 days later, they're closed again with a couple exceptions. He says LA County stores will be allowed to sell ammunition to security companies, and people who already own a gun legally can buy some as well. Otherwise, gun and ammo sales to the general public are not permitted. Since the start of the outbreak, local gun shops have been packed with customers waiting in long lines to buy both guns and ammunition.
And breaking tonight, the DMV has announced that they are closing all 167 field offices in California. That is according to the Sacramento Bee. And in San Francisco, all Metro light rail service is shut down to help slow the spread of the virus. The Muni Metro routes will now be serviced by bus. BART will remain open in downtown San Francisco with limited operating hours.
And somewhat of a silver lining, LA County Sheriff Alex Villanueva said crime rates are down. Overall crime is down 6%, violent crime is down 10%. The LAPD reports similar declines. They're separate jurisdictions in a way. The department says burglaries in the city of LA are down 16%, personal theft down 15%. Authorities say the decline are probably due to people spending more time inside their homes, making them a lot less likely to be targeted by criminals. They're also giving credit to increased police patrols.
And a Southern California man is facing fraud charges after allegedly trying to sell a fake coronavirus vaccine. Keith Middlebrook was taken into custody yesterday in El Segundo. The FBI agents the FBI says he pitched the phony cure to an agent who was posing as an investor and asked for $300,000. He also allegedly promoted the cure on his Instagram page and claimed to have the backing of former Lakers great Magic Johnson. Middlebrook is expected to appear in federal court later today.
Shannon, that's the latest from the West Coast. We'll send it back to you.
Samantha and Andy, thank you so much. And moving on now, the coronavirus outbreak has forced us all to change how we do things. The flood of information may be difficult to keep up with. So right now on WPRI.com, we have a page dedicated to 12 things you need to know about coronavirus. It's being crafted to help you navigate all of our coverage and highlight important facts, available resources, and how people are coping. Over the weekend, we'll be sitting down with doctors to get your key questions about the coronavirus answered. If you have a question, you can email it to coronaquestions@nexstar.tv. Your questions will be answered in Saturday and Sunday on live streams, and those streams will start at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. The goal of our Nexstar family is to make sure you continue to get the latest facts on the coronavirus without the fear. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow night with stories from across the country. For now, I'm Shannon Heggie. Thank you for joining us and stay healthy.